Disclaimer, this is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardines, to use this as an educational material. These are the learning objectives of the discussion. You will determine what is human trafficking and human rights. Identify the examples of human trafficking. Recognize the three elements of human trafficking. What is human trafficking? Human trafficking is a trade of humans for the purpose of forced labor, sexual slavery, or commercial sexual exploitation. It can occur within a country or transnationally. It is distinct from people smuggling, which is characterized by the concept of person being smuggled. The purpose of human trafficking is to control victims for the purpose of engaging in commercial sex act or labor services against his or her will. Some cause that leads to human trafficking was depression, anxiety, types of suicide, or post-traumatic stress disorder. Human rights, it is a moral principle or norms for certain standards of human behavior and regularly protected in municipal and international law. It is the basic right and freedom that belong to every person in the world, from birth until death. They apply regardless of where you are from, what you believe, or how you choose to live your life.
Cadet Veloso Roberto Benjamin, and I am reporting about examples of human trafficking. So I have 8 examples for sexual exploitation, forced labors, death bondage, domestic servitude, organ removal, forced begging, child soldiers, and lastly, forced marriage. So we'll start at sexual exploitation. It is a person profiting from the use of another person's body in a sexual manner in order to benefit financially or otherwise. An example of this is kanang bulikatan. For example, ako ang owner. So, mag-use ko another person like kanang babae para mahatag na ko ang needs sa akong client. And ako may makabenefitan na o tagana na akong porsyento ang kanang babae. So, ako man ang owner, so ako mo yung naka-benefit. Next is forced labor. It occurs when individuals are compelled against their will to provide work or service through the use of force, fraud, coercion. So, kining forced labor from the word forced, kay napugos kay trabaho kay tungod gihadlok or blackmail. Death bondage happens when people give themselves into slave as security against a loan or when they inherit a debt from a relative. So, ang sabot sa death bondage kay nagtatrabaho sila as a slave para security silang loan at para matapakan ng ilang mga utang. Domestic servitude. It is a crime in which a domestic worker is not free to leave his or her employment and is abused and unpaid if paid at all. But pasabot wala ni tagas. Dili nakahawa kung asa siya trabaho tungod kay walay legal protection or lack of human anatomy within the home. Organ removal. It is a criminalized in the United Nations protocol to prevent or suppress and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children. Protocol persons. Trafficking in persons control. So, ang example na is kanang mga kidnapping. So, manghidnap, kanang for example, nag-kidnap sila ng certain tao. So, there is a possibility nga ilang ibalig yung organs lang pati na person para mabalig yung organs. Next is forced begging. It is a form of exploitation that results in human trafficking. Kanang mga tao bito na ma-force na beg na lang kay like kanang uban na badyaw, manlimos na lang even though they are fit to work pero mga tapuan kasi dili na lang sila mangita o kanang trabaho, decent trabaho. Instead mag-beg na lang sila. Child soldiers. It involves the unlawful recruitment or use of children through force, fraud, or coercion as combatants for labor or for sexual exploitation by armed forces. Mugamit sila mga bata para dungal sa armed forces. Like kanang sa example kanang sa gira sa Iran sir, makita sa pano kanay makita niya ang bata kay magkahawid ng tusil, ina-train na nila para mahimo sa para magamit. And lastly, forced marriage. It is a marriage in which one and or both parties have not personally expressed their full and free consent to the union. Example ani is kanang fixed marriage kay dili biya kanang fixed marriage kay kanang gusto sa laki o bayi. So mo napugos na lang kay mo magustuhan sa parents or unsa man. That's all for my report.
Trafficking in person is an illegal act and is considered a violation of human rights and to human dignity and national development. So there are three types: interrelated and interdependent elements that must be presented for situation to be considered within the purview of RA or Republica 9208 as amended by RA 10364. So the first type is what we call acts. It involves the recruitment, obtaining or hiring, providing, offering, transportation, or transfer with persons with or without the victim's consent of knowledge within the across national borders. So the second type of trafficking is also what we call means. So the meaning of means is committed by use of threat or force or other forms of abduction, fraud, deception of the persons, or giving or receiving payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person. So it's manipulating. So the third act of trafficking of person is purpose. Purpose. It is done for the purpose of exploitation or the prostitution of other form of sexual exploitation, forced labor or services, slavery, involuntary servitude, or the sale of organs. Each of these elements must be present and linked to each other. The acts must be achieved by one of the means, and both must be linked to achieving the purpose. If any one of the three elements is absent, then the situation may not involve trafficking in person, except if it's involved trafficking of a child. The recruitment, transportation, transfer, and abduction of child for the purpose of exploitation, or when the adoption is indeed considered person if you're not involved in any of the means mentioned.
The Interagency Council Against Trafficking, or IACAT, is pleased to report that the Philippines retained its Tier 1 ranking in United States US 2022 Trafficking in Person report released on July 19, 2022. The ranking means that the government of the Philippines fully met the minimum standards for the eliminations of trafficking in person under the U.S. Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000 by demonstrating serious and sustained efforts to address the problem during the covered period.